Hello and welcome to episode 1307 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Thursday, June 13th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer. Joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, June 13th already. I know I do this bit a lot, but these time periods, they do sneak up on me. It's almost as if time never stops. It just keeps going. But it's crazy to
Yeah,
be mid-June, isn't it?
it is. I mean, we're going to be at the All-Star break here in a month.
Before you blink, man. Before you
Like, and
blink.
then trade deadline, and then it's going to
Yeah.
be like real
And
go
then spring
season.
training, training camp, and that's when I get really bummed because I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
well, now we're in the home stretch. But then
They
the
take us
playoffs,
off serious. Yeah,
yeah, that's gonna happen like in 2 weeks.
yesterday probably. Yeah.
I mean, I know I did do Monday,
Oh, okay.
and by the way, not blaming Jeff and them over there. The RotoWire, like, they would have us
Oh yeah.
on all year, but it's Football Channel. Let's just be clear, and they know that, and that's unfortunate. So, but anyway, we're gonna do a little review. It's time for a FAAB review again. We did April a while back, and I like to wait deep into the next month because we want to look at that last period, and they got to get a little runway there to be able to do something or not. And look, I'm going off of how high volume they were picked up. If you snuck some gems in during this time, good on you. I don't have time to go through all of them for the main event. Like, that's a lot. So there are probably some gems I'm missing. But at the high end, Justin, just doing an overview of this, and I left the stats in for last month, and I'm going to leave out all the stats in all year. It has not been a good year with FAAB, right? Like,
It really
we're not.
hasn't.
It has to be the lower guys cashing in, because these upper end guys that are picked up the most and often for the highest prices have been very underwhelming on the large scale. We're going to get into it. We're going to go week by week, but man, it's been disappointing. We will start with a guy who's been all right. I think you feel okay that you got him, but you and I both took the approach this year, like, we're not getting in on the $300 pitchers,
Yeah.
even though you benefited brilliantly from one last year, Yuri Perez. And I took the short end with Taj Bradley. We still came to the same conclusion that it's just not where we want to be. And everything can change. If Paul Skeens had been available, that's a whole different story. But he wasn't available because he's that good, and everyone drafted him and decided, I will wait until he gets called up. But there's just nobody on the board this year. I don't think Job's that guy either that you feel good about. But Christian Scott drew in some money. 471 ERA, but a 114 whip and a pretty solid 16% strikeout minus walk ratio since he's come up. He got sent out right before they went overseas, the Mets. And Christian Scott, that's probably a way of managing him because he's not back yet, right?
No, he's
So
not.
now you're in a holding pattern. So maybe you're not as happy as I thought. Because I was going to say the 471 ERA I can forgo or forgive because I like the whip and the skills are there. So I'm not going to get too hung up on the ERA. But now you're having to hold this like triple digit asset here. Where do you feel? How do you feel about Christian Scott thus far? If you paid big for him at the main event table, sorry.
I mean, you've got to be pretty disappointed at this point because you just haven't gotten a ton from him, and now, like you said, you're burning a roster spot just holding him because not on the IL. So it's not like you throw him on your IL and IL leagues.
Yeah.
Um, and how many innings are we really expecting Christian Scott to get in the majors rest of the way?
Well, so
Through
he had
85 and two
88
thirds.
last year. What's that?
Oh,
I saw 87 and 2/3. I just rounded up.
oh, okay, yeah, I missed
So
it.
yeah,
It's low A.
88 last year for Christian Scott. He's 25 years old, but then you have the Mets not really competing to have like
That's the big
incentive to
thing.
kind of keep pushing. And I think that they'll just kind of on the general vibe of who they are, I think they're going to lean toward caution over letting him pitch. So yeah, that's another thing about Christian Scott. Maybe because they're managing his innings right now, you can get a rally there, but this is a tough spot right
But they
now.
could be like, even if he comes back up, which I assume he will come back up, why would they even make him a 5 or 6 inning guy? Like, if they're managing the innings, they may just say, "Hey, we're gonna throw you out there for 3 or 4 innings at a time."
It would depend where he's at because at this point, Christian Scott's at 62 innings. What do you think? Well, I usually do like a 25% jump. That'd give him 110.
Yeah,
So that'd be 110 total, but that's only 48 left in the chamber then.
And let's see,
So that's
I'm
not
looking
that
in
much.
AAA. He's got a 5 inning start and a 3 2/3 inning start.
I think you got to be able to go higher. I think
I would
if they
hope.
can't really view 130 for him right now, at least, then I don't know what maybe they shouldn't be viewing him as a star. I have like a hair that is tickling me. It's like one of Jen's hairs without a doubt. And I can't figure out where it is, and it's driving me insane. So if anybody's watching the YouTube and sees me keep grabbing my neck, that's what's happening now. I'm sorry. Anyway, Justin, with Christian Scott, is there a world where you're cutting in a main event? Because the injuries are starting to pile up for folks as we hit June. Do you just have to hold through this? Like, you already
I think,
paid the price. You can't get any of the money back, but I
yeah.
understand wanting to get your value. Do you maybe cut if you have, say, 2 ILs? So then that'd be 3 dead spots in a main event that is, and you're competitive, let's say.
I mean, I think it would depend on where my ILs are. Like, if they're 2 IL pitchers, then I'm probably cutting, right? Because
Okay.
like you need that extra pitcher spot, and it also depends on when my IL guys are coming back. Like, is this
Also a
Garrett
good point.
Cole who
Yep.
could be back in the next few weeks? Hopefully, is this someone like Merrill Kelly? Like, I probably would cut Kelly over cutting Christian Scott, even though Kelly's starting to work his way back. So I mean, it's really depends on what your situation looks like. But there's definitely some scenarios in which I could cut, and there's no way
But
Alec Marsh is making it. Oh wait, no,
you said he's already out, right?
No,
I
he's
thought you
still
said he was
pitching.
already out. Oh.
No,
Oh,
he's
no,
still
you were saying an out on a play. Sorry. I
yeah.
heard you earlier before the show. You were like, oh, he's out. You
There's
didn't
a
mean
base
Alec
runner
Marsh.
on, but I didn't see if it was a hit or a.
There's no, yeah, it's the little red thing went away on the iPad. It's no longer a
Okay,
no hitter for Alec Marsh.
so he's probably been after this inning then.
Okay, so with Christian Scott, you're twisting, you're bending to try to keep him.
I'm trying to.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I think
am
he's a
too.
really talented guy. I think, yeah, I know that the ERA isn't great, but the WHIP is fine, and he's getting he gets
And
strikeouts, and
there's a 4 inning, 4 run at Miami, which is annoying because it's Miami
yeah,
and you would have expected him to run there. That's boosting the ERA because you missed the first start, the 6 2/3 1 inning, because that was the day before he was available in the main event. So his composite ERA is 3.90. Like, you're not
yeah.
upset about where Christian Scott's numbers are. Okay, so we're really trying to hold. Unless you're in a really dire situation, you should hold firm. Daniel Hudson was a very targeted pickup. This was while
Mm-hmm.
Evan Phillips was on the IL, and I got to say, it paid off brilliantly. You got 6 scoreless innings with 7 punchies, 2 saves, and a win. Not much else to say about that. That was just a resounding W. And anytime Evan Phillips gets hurt, if Daniel Hudson is available, he will be the primary pickup until and unless they pick somebody else up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, they did use other guys in the ninth during that stretch,
But I would still pick him up.
but he was still the main dude, and I think
Yeah.
he would be the main dude unless they go and trade for someone at the deadline, which I mean they obviously could, but
And we'll assess that, but in 6 weeks, though, right? So for now, within the next window here, if Phillips were to get hurt again, you just run back out and you go get Daniel Hudson again. But obviously, he's been cut a bunch because that was a very targeted pickup. Tylor Black was the highest picked up in this May 5th period. He was 7 games and done, man. They did not really give him a shot. I guess, what's your outlook on Tylor Black right now? I know the number one answer is it depends when he comes back, of course. Do you jump right back in when he comes back? How did you feel about this little blip? I mean, it was too much or too quick to judge anything, but are you on the Tylor Black train where you would want to pick back up when he eventually returns?
I think so. I mean, this is a guy who's shown like he can steal a ton of bases, and especially if that's what you need, when you are in that position. I mean, I think he could be really viable, especially because he has such a good hit tool. Like, this guy makes a lot of
Yeah.
contact in the zone, and I know he didn't show it in his stretch, but it was 7 games. Like, who cares, right? So the problem I think is they've just got a ton of guys. Like, they just have a ton of bodies.
Good
This
spot
is
to
not
be
like
in.
an overly talented team, but it's a deep team with guys
Yes.
up and down that line who
Everyone's
can hit.
good.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah.
solid.
So I just don't know and he's a bad defender, which I think plays into it. You look at some of the guys they've really gone to in Milwaukee, and especially on the infield, and they're better defenders, these younger guys.
Terang and Ortiz. I mean, what a
Yeah,
defensive combo, and both are hitting the shit out of the ball right now. But yeah, to your point, as far as like pure talent, like they're playing better than average, but they're kind of adhering to that old Bill James principle of like if you're average everywhere, you're a really really good team because
yeah.
there aren't really many standouts. Like Yelich has been great. He's their superstar, and as is Contreras. But then the rest of that group, and like you said, it runs deep. So Black needs
He
one
needs an
big
injury.
injury, but he might
Yeah.
need two. I mean, like I don't even know if he's automatically the guy right away on a given injury.
I think if they were to lose someone like Adames, because I mean, I think the original thought process, at least mine, was that like they would trade Adames since it's the last year of his deal,
Yeah,
and then they could move Terang to short and move Ortiz to second, and then you've got third base open for Tylor Black.
yeah,
So I mean, if something were to happen to Adames, or I mean, I guess to Ortiz or Terang, like they could make the switches necessary to get Black playing time, but you're gonna have to wait for something to happen, and so
true.
far, nothing has, and I don't think you're holding him or you shouldn't be holding him if you have been.
No, no, Tyler Black, easy cut. Just keep tabs on him though, because I do think anytime he comes back up, if it looks like he has a chance to play, you want to jump in. Like, don't get too hung up on this. Even if you burn some money, I wouldn't make that take Tyler Black off my radar. Joey Loperfido was sent out 9 days later and then just now returned. Like he's had some decent numbers, but it's tiny. So I think the people that had him already cut and moved on from him. So he was kind of a bust for that wave of people. What about this next wave here? Oh wait, did he get sent back out
He already
again?
got sent back out, yeah.
Okay, never mind. Let's just move on. Joey Loperfido, we'll check in
Well,
with you later.
I mean, I think he is a talented player. The problem is,
I do
again,
too.
defensively, like he isn't strong anywhere, and so I think that really limits his ability to stay on this team that's so loaded. I mean, even without
Hmm.
Kyle Tucker, they sent him down. They're choosing to play Trey Cabbage, who can't be a real player. I just don't believe that.
I
That
heard it was, but like that's these AI generated players these days. Trey Cabbage, come on now. Come on
yeah.
now. Who you
So
fooling?
I mean, if I had told you that the starting outfield in the middle of June for the Houston Astros was going to be Jake Meyers, Mauricio Dubon, and Trey Cabbage,
First place, baby.
you would have
First place.
laughed at me if I
Yeah,
had said
yeah.
that.
No, no,
Like,
I would have been like, what are you talking about, dude?
yeah, like
But then you would have
this.
said they're 31 and 38, and I would have said, that makes some
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Even though that's
But
not the
it's not
reason
the
why.
offense isn't the
No, no,
problem.
no,
Like,
it's not. I know. I'm just being funny on that one because it's really, really not that the fault of the offense, including Jake Myers, who we are going to talk about later. But yeah, that is crazy what the situation they're in. But like you said, they don't trust Loperfido's glove enough to try to get that bad advantage, and so he's back down again. So he's going to be up and down type of guy. Here's the thing: if you like him, which I actually do, I'm always going to keep the bids tempered. I'm not going to get caught paying thinking this is the time he's going to play and just be left holding the bag on a big bid. It's probably 30 and under, even if it looks like he has a job. And if someone outbids me for it, I think I tip my cap and I move on. So that's a general idea with Loperfido. But yeah, he's back out already. Let's talk Wenceel Perez for my Tigers. He's playing a bunch, but there's not really anything here. It's 236 average, no homers, two steals, and 121 plate appearances. I imagine most have moved on. But like I said, he does play. He has three homers, four steals on the season. It's just that a lot of that was missed before he was picked up. Do you like Wenceel Perez at all?
um, I just think it's such an empty bat. Like he does make a
Yeah.
lot of contact, but so little of it is hard contact, and um, he does put the ball like he does kind of spray it in terms of like his fly ball to ground ball rate, and and can kind of. There's just nothing. He's got a 31% hard percentage. Like it's
He
just
has
pretty.
these, yeah, and he has these like spurts of success. And I know a lot of players do. You can go through and find that their game log is dotted with ups, but just watching him day to day, it's like 4 days of why is he still in the bigs, and then a 3 for 4. And like that's been the Perez experience. In a rut, boom, goes hot for a while with a bunch of 2-hit games, including a 2 triple game, which is very cool. So he's been very streaky because he's at the mercy, Wenceel Perez is, of his contact and where it lands. And because he doesn't strike the ball well, the way Justin's talking about, it ends up being pretty empty average. So
Yeah.
decent real life ball player. If you take his whole composite, he's got a 107 OPS plus for the Tigers. Not bad. And, playing some decent outfield, I think. I actually haven't checked the metrics, but it'd be a small sample either way. But for fantasy, I don't see it really with Wenceel Perez. And that's why I was never really in when he was called up. Let's go to the May 12th period. Let's start with Robert Gasser, 3.27 ERA, 123 WHIP, 12% strikeout minus walk, and a win for Gasser, who I believe is currently on the IL.
Yeah, elbow issues.
Yes, that's right. So obviously he's been cut, and if he hasn't, this is your warning to go do that
Yeah,
immediately
no.
because
The manager already said he's unlikely to return this year. So
yeah, so we're out on that. Did you see anything in the 28 innings where maybe you would buy low despite the injury on Robert Gasser, or are you just going to hands off, wait and see what's up with Robert Gasser?
I'm probably not. Like, I just don't think there's enough upside in the arm. I think he is like a mid-rotation kind of guy. Like, he might be like a viable like number 4, number 5 pitcher, maybe even like with a number 3 upside. But like, those aren't the guys you stash. Like, because
especially if they're about to hit an injury period of trouble.
Yeah. So like, I just don't think he's worth stashing. Like, I think the prospect name kind of elevated him in the eyes of people. And like, don't get me wrong, the results were fantastic. You're talking about 257 ERA, but there were barely any strikeouts go along with it. And like, I think he was getting pretty lucky, just generally speaking. I think he'll be a decent arm. I think he'll be a guy we talk about for a decade or 7, 8 years as like a guy who's like, hey, yeah, he's a glue dude in your rotation. But I don't think he's ever leading anybody's fantasy rotation.
I think that's totally fair with Robert Gasser. We'll see if the Brewers can extract anything more out of him. But right now, he just really looks like a solid guy. And because he's injured, we can move on and wait to see what happens from here. Eddie Rosario was a big pickup in this May 12th period, but he's only hitting 200 with 2 homers, 2 steals, 13 ribbies, 10 runs, and 93 plate appearances. Is he still playing daily, or I mean, close to, like on a strong side platoon?
Honestly, I have no idea at this point. Like, he shouldn't be.
Let me check. Let me check Washington real quick.
And they did just lose Joey Gallo to a hamstring injury.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, he's playing every day, batting 4th. So let me give a little bit more backstory on Rosario and why he was picked up. He has a little tinge of pop. He has 7 homers right now. I think that attracted some folks. What's really funny about that 200 average is that's raised his mark. He's hitting 187 on the season. So Rosario was a pickup for a volume play because he's, batting in the middle of a lineup every single day. And in 15 teamers, you try to spike something there. Should people be holding Eddie Rosario, though? I think I know the answer.
No. You shouldn't be holding Eddie Rosario. I mean, he hit 253 in the month of May. He was like super, super hot. He had 6 stolen bases, 6 home runs. But this is one of those classic. Yeah, this is one of those classic scenarios of like you go and pick up the hot guy and you missed all the goodness. Like
exactly, Oliver Dunn style. Yep.
Yeah.
And that happens so much. That's simply part of playing the waivers, right? You're hoping that you're latching on to somebody who has, made a change or something and is maybe hitting a different level and just playing better this year, or at least has a little bit more of the hot streak going. But very often you're catching the crap end of it, and that stinks. The steals piece is a big deal, though, with Rosario and any Nats right now. If they're playing, they're getting the opportunity to run. So if they are so inclined, they're taking off, and that is valuable. But like I said, only 2 in the last month for Rosario, so he has slowed down quite a bit. You have been able to get
this Alec Marsh win for me. This is going to be a brutal.
Oh my God, that'd be a nightmare, dude.
John Schreiber just gave up a freaking solo shot. It's 2-1 now.
To who?
To Rizzo.
Oh, sweet. I'm watching Cards Pirates. Dairon Blanco was meant to be a steals asset. That's somewhere where people were looking for steals. And we talk about this player type of bunch. This Rajay Davis before he started to get more PT. Gerard Dyson, these guys that can get steals, just not really even playing that much. 14 steals on the year for Blanco in 67 plate appearances. In fact, since this pickup period, he's only got 25 plate appearances. Like, he doesn't really play. The problem is He hasn't really been getting the steal opportunities either. He does have 4 steals in that time, which is a good rate. But can you really, like, I don't know, how do you play a guy like this? I think even 15-team mixers are probably still too shallow for Dairon Blanco. Or is the 4 steals good enough? Because he doesn't hurt your average because there's not enough plate
But
appearances.
he hits everything else. Like he
Yeah,
hits your home
the
runs,
lack
your
of
RBIs.
counting is the problem. Yes, 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 yes,
You
yes.
just can't take that kind of deficit, because what you're doing is you're trying to like get a guy like Blanco, but what you're really trying to do is get a guy like David Hamilton, who we're going to talk about here in a little
Yes,
bit,
yes,
which
yeah.
a guy that he steals a lot of bases, but he also isn't a zero everywhere else.
So he's playing, and so even when if he's not doing well with the bat, he gets the odd runs and ribby
You've got
here
to
and
be
there just by
John
virtue
Birdie
of
for
playing.
this profile to work. Like you've just got
Yeah,
to be one of those guys who
or
like he can, yeah,
Rajay Draw Dyson, like
draw that. You can be a guy who can steal 30 and does actually steal 30 on your team. Like otherwise, it like because like the overall numbers, like even I think if you go back and you look at John Birdie's numbers from that year, I bet you he wasn't even an average fantasy player overall because he took such a negative, made such a negative impact in the other
well,
categories.
depends on the weight. Like I think because of the way steals are weighted, his 41 would be enough, but he hit 240, 4 homers, 28 ribbies, and 47 runs for John Birdie. So your point is well made. Like you have to make up that deficit. I don't know how good those calculators are pointing out like the team construction there is hurt a little bit. But that said, Birdie was still good for a lot of folks. If you had a big power stack team that was starved for speed, he could single-handedly take care of it. And you already had 4 mashers. So you already had an abundance of runs, ribbies, and homers that you could afford a guy like that. That's where it's a perfect fit. So these are always fit-based players. And Justin, I love to say, he's a fit for this format, but maybe not for your team. And that's definitely a Dairon Blanco situation where, because I'm looking like he's pacing for 57 steals. Like he is running at the level that he needs to. So you have to really be able to afford it though. Like you have to have power coming out your ears to be able to take this. Because even these 4 steals, paces out really, really well on a per volume basis. I just
Yeah,
can't
but
do
I
it
mean,
though. I can't roster a Dairon Blanco.
there are 29 other guys who've stolen 4 bases
In that
since
time? Okay, there you
that
go.
time.
So then
So
you
like
just don't need to do that. He needs to be stealing more to be ahead of the pack. That's a good call then. And that's what you're getting at. He has to be on that Birdie level where Birdie was running so well that he was just garnering some PT from it. Blanco is still just
we
the
were
pinch
also,
runner.
especially because back then, like with Birdie, like not everybody was stealing 30 bases. Now
Also a
everybody,
great point.
like now 4 bases doesn't matter nearly as much because everybody's stealing those kind of
Yep.
bases over the course of a month.
Stolen bases are, and that's another thing too. If you ran Birdie through like a today calculator, today's environment, his price probably would go way down. But for the year, he probably still did enough with those 41 steals to for his dollar value to still be positive, even with all the less of nothing that he did. Matt Manning, or excuse me, Kyle Manzardo first. We'll get to Matt Manning. Manzardo's been a bust though. 233 average, no homers, no steals. You're moving on from him, right?
Yeah, I moved on with him with like within 2 weeks. Like it
Yeah,
just all of a
I didn't
sudden.
even, I couldn't get, he doesn't start. So he just doesn't play. Like everyone should be moved on. We can revisit him if he falls into a starting role. I think he's a talented bat. I do like him, but right now
He's a
he's not playing.
2025 guy. Like I
Yep.
think they probably trade a guy like Naylor next year, and as he starts getting more expensive, and then all of a sudden you've got Manzardo playing every day.
Totally agree that I think I'll be all over him in 25. Matt Manning, 591 ERA, 225 whip. I think it's only like 2 starts and then he got sent back out, but they did not go well. Now the skills were better. Like he ran pretty ugly, obviously with numbers like that, but he really hasn't, like he's shown some flashes this year, Matt Manning, but he's still just not really there. And these happen to be 2 rough starts. Miami and Arizona, though, too. 2 opportunities to really show
And that's
something.
why
And
he was picked up in so many leagues. So it's
exactly. Like I was all for it. So
yeah.
no shade to anybody who scooped him, but he bludgeoned you and then took off. Like he did a dirty hit and run on people.
He
But I
got
tell you
gone.
what, you did get Gombered. I tell you what, if he comes back, I'll go for him again. I really will.
Yeah, should stop trying to kick that football. Just like
Why?
I mean,
No. I don't agree. He's
it's just
talented.
not.
He's pitching very well in AAA. No, I still think Matt Manning has talent. He's still ironing it out. Look, he's a little bit of a later bloomer, 26 years old. A bunch of people keep getting on the Mitch
At
Keller
this,
train. I can keep getting on the Matt Manning trade.
but Mitch Keller's shown like he can at least stick in the majors.
Has he though? Okay, yeah, he has. Damn it, I didn't know what you were
I
going
mean,
to say. I was trying to jump whatever you were going to say and just counter it, but it turns out you said a fact for once in your
yeah, like
damn
to me,
life.
it's like I think Manning needs to just show he can stick in the majors. And the problem is like the Detroit like farm system and the major leagues like are just filled with young talented guys. Like,
Yeah,
and so
I
like
wonder.
he just
I wonder if the clock's ticking on Mize though, to maybe get sent out for a little breather. He had not been pitching well.
he definitely could be just because he's coming off of the time off and stuff.
Bingo.
And stuff.
Oh, he pitched well today.
But, like,
I jinxed it.
that
I didn't jinx
time.
it. It had
Probably on
pre-happened.
my bench.
6 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, a walk, 4 punches against the Nats. So good. Get a little something going for him. I like Mize, so I'm rooting for him, but I do like Manning too. I'm not fully out, but he's a cut. He was a bust of a pickup. Unfortunate. Your mileage may vary if you want to jump back in when he returns. I will assess it. The matchups will, determine it as well. But generally, I think I'll be in, and I don't think it's just Tigers homerism. Andy Ibanez was picked up. I forget exactly why.
Because he had his Andy Ibanez week where he like went off.
We probably played 4 lefties then.
Yeah,
or some shit.
Like, I think he had like 3 home runs in 2 games or something like that, and everybody went crazy. Like he does it every year, and like
true.
People,
he will tease and tantalize. Oh yeah, no, he had a huge week. 4 hits, 1 hit, 2 hits. So it was 3 hits, 3 days in a row with hits, and it was a 2-homer game, May 7th, which was 5 days before he was picked up. So yeah, he had an Ibanez week. Let me see if that was against Logan Allen. It was. I was gonna say because it was against Cleveland. I was like, it had to be a lefty. Who's the lefty they've got? And there you go, it's Logan Allen. So yeah, it was just you got caught at the wrong time there, and so he's just not playing. He should easily be cut right now. Andy Ibanez, move on. Tylor Megill, 3.32 ERA, 1.23 WHIP, 22% strikeout minus walk. Only 1 win because the Mets suck, but we might have found something here with Tylor Megill. Are you on board with it?
It's funny because I was not a Tylor Megill guy when everybody else was, and now I feel like I am when nobody else is.
You're sticking with him.
I really, really like Tylor Megill. Like he's really, really refined his command, and the product of that has been very, very few home runs given up this year. And he's done it in a way that he hasn't sacrificed the strikeout rate. He's got a 29% strikeout rate.
Yeah.
The walks can be a problem for him. He is a 10% walk guy, but when you're not giving up bombs, like those walks don't come back to hurt you. And in that park, it's, he's protected. So I really like him as long as he's healthy. And that's a big if because Tylor Megill has struggled with health with that violent delivery, but that violent delivery generates a lot of strikeouts. And I think as long as he continues to stay on the mound, he's going to be a really, really viable pitcher for fantasy. So he's probably my favorite pickup of the guys we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I think he's mine too. I like Tylor Megill. That's a football I kept kicking. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I connected for a little bit. No, listen, it's 4 stars.
It was a cheap football, which is good.
True. It was a little nerf after a while. I kept buying the authentic Wilson football, and that one didn't work. I kept drafting him, but picking him up has worked. It's been 4 starts, so let's not get too far with it. But you honed in on the command for Tylor Megill, and we've seen just 1 homer on the year. Now, he's definitely getting some favorability with that on the homer to fly ball anytime you're running that hot, but I believe he's also contributing to it. If you've watched Megill a bunch, Justin has before he was good, and now when he's pitching well, you can see differences. You can see he's not making some of the same mistakes that he used to make that led to easily over 1.2 homer. Yeah, in fact, 1.5 in his first 263 innings. So yes, the 3% homer to fly ball rate helps, but he is playing a role in it with the way he's pitching. So there'll be some regression, but not enough to take me off of Tylor Megill right now. Paul DeJong is only hitting 223 since you picked him up on the May 12th period, but 7 bombs.
And I picked him up.
Of course you did. 7 bombs, 16 ribbies, 12 runs, and a steal, and playing every day. So if you needed the power, he's been a good remedy at a tough position to fill with power too. What do you think of Paul DeJong? We know you love him, but what have you been thinking of what he's been doing this year? He's 13 homers on the year, Paul DeJong does.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of those guys that kind of just sits on my bench, and I throw him in there when Like he's got a couple of good matchups coming up, and I mean, he is who he is at this point in his career. Like he doesn't walk, he strikes out way too much, and he's going to hurt your batting average. But there is power, and in Chicago, he's going to play every day until he gets traded for peanuts and becomes somebody's backup infielder.
Some C- prospect to go to play on a playoff team. They should do him that service because he's playing He's playing well. I like seeing it. Paul DeJong, quality player. What I've always been impressed with too is that the way he refined his defense at the big league level, almost in a Marcus Semien type style. It doesn't get quite as much credit because he didn't turn into like an MVP candidate, but he had a bad defensive outlook when he came up to the majors, and maybe he did it at the high minors. But I know his prospect status contained poor defensive outlook. Like I don't think he's gonna be able to stick it short, this and that. Gonna have to go to second or third and figure some things out. But no, he's been a legit shortstop. So I like Paul DeJong. Good on him. And you're fine if you picked him up because if you were expecting anything from the batting average, that was your own damn fault.
Yeah.
May 19th, Miguel Vargas, not playing, 20 plate appearances since pickup, easily cut. I guess the question is where are you at right now? Because we've been proponents of his. Do we need another Michael Busch trade? Which, by the way, we should check in on that. He's come back to earth a little bit.
Yeah, he has.
He's still good, but like, anyway, where are you at on Miguel Vargas? Is he ever going to find playing time here? Is it going to require an injury, et cetera, et cetera?
He needs to be traded. Like, I mean, he needs the Michael Busch trade. That's exactly what he needs. He's an organization that needs a mediocre, defensive player that can just match to like take a shot on him. So I don't know where that ends up being.
For Eric Fetty.
Yeah, sure, why not? I don't know that the White Sox even want to trade Fetty because they've got him for cheap.
Why? He's 31. What value does he? You only take a risk that he pumpkins.
Yeah, but you're not going to get much back in return.
Bullshit. If he keeps pitching like this, I totally disagree. Disagree. He's pitching so well. Pitching's going to be hard to find, man. Like, who else are you going to go get? This is a 31-year-old. Exactly. Yeah, you have to pay more for him. They should trade him too. I think it's malpractice if they don't trade Fetty. I won't quite be that egregious or overstated about it with Crochet. There's a case to keep him. He's 25 after all. But I think you really
they
should
trade
it.
everybody, especially because I didn't even know this, but apparently like the rules with the lotteries, if you get a top 5 pick one year, you can't get a top 5 pick the next year.
Yeah, there's like anti-tanking rules.
Yeah, and so because even though they lost the lottery and ended up with a 5th pick, they can't get a top 5 pick, even though they're the worst team in baseball.
Brutal.
Yeah, totally brutal. So, like, they should be just trading everybody that they can right now and just emptying it out.
And with Crochet's health, like, why risk?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's not going to be part of your next great
team.
And
I mean, and Fetty could just turn back into the guy he's always been, which is a pumpkin. So they absolutely should trade him. Will they trade him? I don't know.
Malpractice if they don't.
Like he's a name that I have not even heard mentioned in rumors, which is insane to me.
Yeah, that better be in the works. I'm sure San Diego will pick him up. I don't know who they have left to trade to the White Sox, but at the very least, he should get traded to San Diego, which would be good. But anyway, back to Miguel Vargas. Okay, so he needs to get traded. I agree. Jake Meyers, I hinted at him earlier. Now, he was playing really well before the pickup, and I've always had a soft spot for him, so I let my bias think, this could be the beginning of something, and maybe it is, but since we've picked him up, and I say we because I got him in a league, not in the main, so I'm not taking it on the chin in my biggest league, but it's not gone particularly well, and it might have just been a classic little hot streak for Jake Meyers, and that's okay, but it was coming off like a monster week, which included back-to-back 3-hit games on the weekend, which was a little annoying because it was one of those where he was already on my board, and then, back-to-back 3-hit games is bringing a lot more people on board and pushing those extra dollars up a little bit. But he's only hitting .215 with a homer, 4 steals, 7 ribbies, and 6 runs. At least he's playing every day. But where are we at on Jake Meyers? Was it just a hot streak, or is this just a little cool off before the next run? Because everything, it always goes in the ebbs and flows. Where are you at on Jake Meyers?
I mean, I think he's just lucky right now that they don't have a left-handed outfield bat.
Because he'd be in a short side.
Yeah, because he would be in a short side. But I think the defense, and the fact that they don't have that option kind of keeps him playing at least. But, it is empty. And I would expect a team like the Astros to go get a left-handed bat for the outfield at some point. Like you look at their lineup right now, and once you get past Jordan, there's no like Trey Cabbage. The only reason Trey Cabbage is on this team is because he's left-handed. So
and we're not even sure if he's real.
Yeah, and I don't think he's real. So I think at this
I've heard
point,
rumors.
it's just a matter of time before they find someone to kind of platoon at least with a guy like Meyers.
Do the Nats have any left-handed outfielders?
I'm sure
Winker's
they do.
Not.
I don't know if they're any good.
Winker's not an outfielder. They don't want Rosario. I'm just trying to think of the teams that are going to trade. And I didn't mean to go to the Nats right away like they're the worst team in the league. They're very much not. They're actually kind of a frisky team that like you can't take lightly when you go to Washington. But I was just trying to think. Bretton Doyle's a righty, and Bretton Doyle, the Rockies shouldn't trade him. He's 26 and he can cover that center field. But anyway, we're not going to go through that. But yeah, Jake Meyers, that's the thing. If he doesn't turn it around, his days could be numbered as a full-time player. So in 15s right now, you can still hold him. I think he's a spot type guy, a bench bat that you can spot in when you see fit. If there's a Thursday through Sunday that has, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday that has two lefties in it, go ahead and get him in. But that's the kind of usage that we're doing for Jake Meyers right now until he catches fire again, if he does. Luke Raley's been a bit better, though. He's been kind of a outfielder, Paul DeJong, in that, like, you're not expecting batting average help, but the power's been there. And he always throws in that chip in speed. 4 homers, 2 steals to go with Luke Raley's 234 average, 7 ribbies, and 10 runs in 70 plate appearances. He's really turned his season around. And we talk about how, the Scott Pianowski phrase, if you never make a cut that you regret, you've probably been holding on to guys too long through their slumps. I cut Raley. I knew that he could turn it around. I liked him. You always call me the Luke Raley guy. But I had to jump. It took a while for him to get going. I think over a month. But he's back on track. 7 homers, 5 steals overall. Do you like Luke Raley?
I mean, I like him for who he is. He's a guy who doesn't make a lot of in zone contact, and so like when he's hot, he's going to be hot, and when he's not, he's going to be unusable, and that's why you end up cutting him.
Yeah, 0 homers in April. Like
yeah.
218 average, like, and he had a 316 BABIP, so you couldn't even say it was like some crazy 170 BABIP. So I was just like, I know he's not this bad, but I just can't keep Luke Raley. I had outfielders, so it's not like something I've massively regretted, but he has turned it on nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's definitely going to regress. Like, he's got his XBA is 225, which is more indicative of like the kind of hitter that he is. But there is power and there is speed, and Seattle, they traded for him because they like him. Like, you don't trade for a guy like that at the beginning of the season, like when you're not expecting him to be a part of this offense. So they're, I think, willing to take the ups and downs, and if you're able to handle that, I think in like head-to-head leagues, points leagues, things like that, like. You never roster a guy like this, but
that's where he's tough.
Yeah, but in Roto, you kind of just set and forget and hope that like those extended hot or extended cold streaks don't cost them playing time.
Yep, I think that's exactly where you're at with Raley, because in points leagues, those steals from a random power source aren't going to be as valuable. He's definitely a deep Roto play, very niche player. Luke Raley is. All right, so next on the list is definitely a player. And I got to find the sheet because I lost it because I got 42 trillion tabs open.
Pair of Helio Ramos and Luis
Oh,
Matos.
yeah. That's right. Matos and Ramos. So Matos has been a stone cold bust. And if my boy Greg's listening, don't worry. See, he was bummed. I think Matos was getting called up. And he's like, we didn't even talk about him on our calls because neither of us had seen that he was getting called up. And he's been terrible and he's back down. But Ramos... he's doing some things, Justin. On the season, he has 6 homers with a 305 average and 24 ribbies. Since this pickup period, he has 5 of those homers with a 312 average, 16 ribbies, and 7 runs in 91 plate appearances. Is this the arrival of Elliot Ramos?
No.
Oh, I mean, dang.
This is a massive hot streak. Like, none of the skills have really changed for him. I think the only skill that has changed for him is he's become a better defender, which allows the Giants to use him in center field. But this has just been a massive hot streak that's going to end at some point in similar fashion to like the Luis Matos thing, where remember Matos like had 3 home runs on my bench.
Yes,
the weekend he got called up, and then he was
2 homers. I think it was
whatever it was. Yeah, it just killed me. Yeah, I think I have like 8 like bench home runs from Giants players in my whole fantasy. Like I just
That
it's
twists the knife being the Giants too. That's
like
hilarious.
it's just like Jim Conforto and Ramos. Like it's just or
Remember,
Matos. Like yeah,
remember how well regarded he was as a prospect, Matos? I
Mhm.
think like he hit like top 20 or 25 at one venue, or one outlet rather. Like they thought he was going to be the dude. And I'm not saying that to like clown whoever that was because I don't remember where it was. Just that like there was real buzz. In fact, I think even Ramos got some pretty big hype where it was like
yep,
this guy's got everything. Okay, I'm looking actually. I found it. And again, this is not like a hate call out or anything, but like BP thought these guys were going to be the dudes.
yep.
Looking at just the raw tools, and every site had them top 100. These were firm top 100 guys, but they put them top 40 for both of them. And is it just that they never bridged the gap with their raw tools and skills, or were they just overrated as prospects? Where do you come out on Matos and Ramos as prospects?
I think they both had different issues. So I mean, Matos. I think Matos could still be a really good player, not a great player, but I think like he could be a viable center fielder. He's a good defender. He makes a lot of in zone contact. What I think hurts Matos is the park that he plays in. Is
Yeah, for sure.
he's a guy who has kind of below average league power, and when you're playing in a park that cavernous, that turns into a lot of flyouts and
Stop
a
looking at
lot
the
of
TV. The Yankees took the lead.
I know. It's just
Okay.
unreal, dude. Unreal. No, I'm watching the whole time. Like it's just unreal. Like even the leagues where I did start March because I had no other options, I'm still not gonna get a win out of his 7 innings. But
Sorry, I
uh
didn't mean to interrupt you. Matos and Ramos. So
yeah,
Matos, you still think has more upside, even though Ramos is the one playing well right now.
yeah, because he's a good defender who can make contact. And I think there's even like Kevin Kiermaier has made a career out of being a guy who like he can
Yeah.
make contact and play really good defense. Uh,
You're not saying
Ramos,
Ramos is on that level of defense, though, right?
no,
Because
no,
Kiermaier is
no.
God tier.
Yeah, no, he's not on that level of defense. But I think he's an above average
He's
defender.
he's been good, yeah, and he
Yeah.
has improved. Ramos has, and that's the big thing right now. He's playing
No,
center
I was
field.
talking about Matos with the
Or
defense.
but Ramos has been playing good defense too.
Ramos has been playing better defense. The problem with Ramos is just the swing and miss. Like he's just not a guy who makes consistent contact within the zone. And I think, you know, a lot of times when you're looking at prospects, you're only getting uh, guys who cover prospects. They're not day in and day out a lot of times watching these
Yeah,
guys. They're not like MLB scouts who are like, hey, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna be just living in this area
yeah,
and like I'm only gonna be covering the guys in this geographic location. So I'm get to see them play 30 times a year or whatever.
hmm
They're seeing these snapshots of like, hey, there's 4 games here and 3 games here, and like you can you can get kind of overwhelmed by the raw tools. And from a raw tools perspective, like Ramos, like he has really loud raw tools, and
yeah,
we're seeing them at play right now. But uh, if you don't have a good hit tool to go along with some of those louder tools, like you can get buried. Like same thing like Luciano, right? Luciano is one of those guys. He's
yeah.
got
Oh
like
my God,
really loud tools
all
coming up through
three
the
of them,
minors.
man.
Yeah.
They had some real. But I remember Ramos at Fall League in 18 or 19. And I don't think he'd like really popped to his highest prospect level yet, but there was talk of like, oh, he's the next big thing Ramos wants. I heard that for Luciano and Matos. All three of them were supposed to be huge. Now, Matos and Ramos, are they too similar from a composite value standpoint to be on the team at the same time? Because they got Yastrzemski and Conforto in the corners, or is it just because Conforto's there right now and once they trade him, they'll have both up?
Yeah, I think once they clear room. Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a
They
matter
should
of
probably trade
they've got
Yaz too.
they've got
He's
so many
not
old
young.
guys that are out of options that they kind of have to send one or both these guys down once they're healthy. Um,
Yaz to Houston.
I mean, I think I'd be fine with that. I just don't know if they'll do it. They love Yaz, like for some reason.
No, I mean
I
he's
don't know.
baseball royalty. I think that probably plays a role.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I've never
And he's a
really
good
understood.
player too. No, I'm not just saying like if
He's
he had like a
fine.
71 OPS plus that like just because his grandfather was an
Mhm.
amazing player, but like I don't know, He's a good player. I think he should be traded, and I think Houston should inquire. They need a
The
lefty,
problem
like
with
you
the
said.
Giants is they don't like to trade. Like they hate the trade deadline. Like
Well, yeah,
they
that's why they
do.
have everyone 1,000 years old because they keep players for
Yeah,
17,000 years. All right.
yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll check back in on Matos when he gets called back up. Ramos, we'll see if he can stay hot. But right now, Justin says it's a hot streak, and I'm gonna defer to him because I don't watch the Giants day in and day out. I don't hate myself. Nick Gonzalez, a guy I loved as a prospect, was really excited. I knew his New Mexico State numbers were super inflated. It was never like, I believe this is who he is. He was just so fun, dude. Dude got like 3 hits a night. I swear he hit 750 one year. Don't look it up. I'm certain of it. Just go with it out in New Mexico State. Had crazy numbers. And I was hoping the Tigers would take him. Actually, that was the 2020 draft.
Yeah.
Oh no. I was like, I wouldn't hate it if they took him number 1. I was saying that, but once I learned more about Torque, I was fully on board with Torque. But anyway, Gonzalez, we've seen him at the Fall League a couple times. I've been impressed when I saw him. I have not lost my love for him. The problem is he's a better real life than fantasy player. That's
Yeah.
my biggest issue is that I can't translate that love into fantasy goodness. 324 average since the May 19th pickup period. 2 homers, a steal, 15 ribbies, 10 runs, and 81 plate appearances. So he's done some damage while he's been playing for you, but I just don't see much beyond the batting average. So unless you have that specific need, and again you have surplus in the counting categories, Nick Gonzalez is a tough fit, but he is playing hot right now. Do you like Nick Gonzalez?
I mean, I like Nick Gonzalez for kind of who he is, which is he's an accumulator. Like
Yeah,
he's
he's a good
almost like
player.
an old school second baseman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's
Placido Polanco vibes.
yeah, like for some reason I was thinking like Nick Punto, like a guy like who can make
Nick
a lot
Punto
of
at his best because I think
yeah,
Gonzalez
yeah.
is better than that. But Punto had some years, and Punto stuck around forever because he's an amazing utility glove.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring up one of the things I love about Baseball Reference is like they're like player comps.
Yes,
But I
he
can't
might not
seem
have played enough to get one yet,
yeah,
though.
I don't think he has. But yeah, like he's an accumulator. He's a dude like in a 15-team league, he makes a lot of sense because he helps you in batting average, and then he plays every day, and so
Yeah.
like he will accumulate the stats. But at the end of the year, you're gonna look at that line and go, fine, whatever.
Eh.
But like,
But then, like in an NL, it's going to be worth like $18 or
yeah,
something. There are places where this is valuable, and we are deep league guys. So guys like this at least get more play. Like you can't even really look at Nick Gonzalez in a 10-teamer. Maybe in some 12-teamers when he's blistering, but
hmm
it's just tough. It's just tough because he has limits on what he can do with the homers and steals, and so then he's at the mercy of the BABIP, and then you're talking about like a baby Luis Ariz because his average isn't even as
yeah,
bankable as Luis Ariz's is. At least not yet for Nick Gonzalez. He could play himself into that, but I think that's kind of his ceiling, right? Is to be another,
yeah.
maybe with a little bit more pop.
I think a little bit more pop, maybe even a little bit more speed, but like,
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of a good comp, but I don't know. They're
I still like
it's
my
just
Polanco one. I still felt good about
yeah, I think
that.
Polanco feels right.
Placido
Yeah,
Polanco had 3 years with double-digit homers, 2 years with double-digit steals, and hit 297 in his career for 7,887 plate appearances.
yeah.
I think Nick Gonzalez would love to do that. So he's a good player. Joe Ross had 1 inning, then hit the IL, so that
It
busted.
was a really good
So
2-start week that you got 1 inning from because
yes,
I
yeah,
was on that. Yeah.
same. Because I
Mhm.
can't quit the Ross brothers, and if they have any kids that they throw into the league, I'll be rostering the hell out of those
Mhm.
guys eventually. All right, so we go to the May 26th period, and Adam Duvall, we know how streaky he can be, right? So I'm not even sure if you can definitely cut him. But if you want to hold for the next hot streak and you can afford it, like there'll be another one because there always is another one with Adam Duvall. But he has 6 homers on the year, but a 169 average. Now at 35, maybe even the next hot streak will still be devoid of batting average. But where are you at on him with Atlanta, Adam Duvall?
I'm just counting the days until they trade for somebody. Like I
That's the
just
thing
counting.
too. So maybe it won't come, or if it does, maybe it won't be with Atlanta. It'll be with his next team because he'll latch on with one of the lower teams. He'll go to
Like
the
I
White
know
Sox
there's
after the
not a lot
deadline.
of options in a 15-team league, but like I just brought up my main event league and like Mark Canha is available, Kevin Pillar is available.
I'll tell you when you
Yastrzemski,
say a name that I would rather have him for. I'll stop you when
oh,
you
you
do
read
that.
it. Gavin Lux,
I think I'd go with Gavin
Will
Lux
Brennan.
still.
Um,
I might go Brennan. And you don't have to keep going down, but like the bottom line is you just reeled off 7, 8 guys that we'd rather have than Duval right now.
Here's a fun one. David Dahl.
Oh my God. Did you see that moonshot he hit the other day?
Yeah, yeah. He was in the. I put him in the road to write up.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I loved David Dahl at
I
his
was
peak with
never
the
a David Dahl
Rockies.
guy, but like I would love to see just a
You talking
like
about kicking
late,
footballs?
yeah, late season or late career resurgence from a random dude.
That'd be
Uh,
amazing on a good team too. Like if he, contributing to the good Phillies team, that'd be a lot
I
of
mean,
fun. David Dahl.
Adam Duvall is the power version of Dairon Blanco, who's another guy who's available.
That's a
Like
great
it's
point.
just like he's a guy like, hey, he can hit you a bunch of homers in a row, but he's mostly going to hurt you in the majority of categories.
And then he's gonna hit, some pinch hit homers that you're not gonna have him in for. And you're like,
Yep.
dang, I missed that production. But 15 team mix is just not a deep enough league to set and forget with somebody like Adam Duvall. And again, he is 35, so we'll see how things go from that front, because he might not be with Atlanta too much longer if he doesn't hit one of those another one of those hot streaks very soon. All right, let's talk David Hamilton then. You mentioned him earlier as the dream scenario of picking up a Dairon Blanco type is David Hamilton, emerging into full-time burn and hitting 360 with 2 homers, 6 steals, 4 ribbies, 9 runs in 51 plate appearances. He's been excellent. I think this is his second, maybe even third wave of pickups this year, because like when he first came up, there was excitement because of that speed. So I think it's at least his second, but maybe his third. 4 homers, 13 steals on the year for David Hamilton. How are we feeling about him? Is he somebody that you think can be a rest of the year type option?
Yeah, I think so because I mean his defense is good enough. I think that he can continue to play there, and he makes contact. He can run. In a kind of changing environment in which running matters to teams. So I do think he can be like one of the pickups of the year because he could steal 30 something bases rest of the way, and not do it while like he'll still probably hit another like 8-9 home runs. One of my big regrets of the season was I cut David Hamilton.
Yeah,
So
it was his second.
I was on that first wave.
It was in mid-May, and that's
leagues.
yeah, that was the expensive wave too. This wave came a lot cheaper. He went 61 the first time in my league, 6 the second time for David Hamilton. Ouch.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. Exactly what I
should, man. I wish I'd have been more in on that because
I have in a couple leagues still where I didn't drop him. But yeah, it's
that would have been a nice fit. And he's a Longhorn, so my bias would have paid off.
Yeah,
it's always nice when your bias aligns with your results.
Yeah, he was picked up for the first time in my main for $63.
Okay, right in line with mine.
And then the second time for 23.
Okay, so 23. My league was one of the cheaper ones. Then $6 to get David Hamilton, and the results have been excellent. So he's one of the better pickups that we've seen in either of these 2 episodes that we've done here. He's just been one of the best pickups of the year thus far, David Hamilton. And right now, things look like they should at least continue on the playing time front, which means the SBs will be there. I don't know if the average is going to stay at 296, and I certainly don't believe you're going to get 4 homers per 135 plate appearances. That's a 17 homer pace. Although he had 17 at AAA last year in 469 plate appearances. So maybe, I guess the only thing I was thinking with David Hamilton was that he's one of those guys that you're always talking about, those mid-tier power guys that get hit by the squish ball. And it's those guys that kind of hit 12 to 19 homers. So he's avoided that fate right now with 4 and 135 plate appearances, but I do wonder about that. But as long as he keeps running and hits like 250, I think the fantasy managers will be happy with David Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Now let's go to the power end of the spectrum. And another guy that's paying off so far, Mark Vientos, hitting 304 with a couple homers, 10 ribbies, 10 ribbies, 6 runs scored in 52 plate appearances. How do we feel about that? from Mark Vientos. He's finally getting some playing time. Brett Beatty sent out to clear a little bit of a path here for Vientos.
This one is frustrating because not that I don't want a guy like Vientos to succeed, but he shouldn't be.
I almost did a spit take, dude. I was so close to taking a drink there. You almost got me.
Yeah, like he should, like he's striking at a 19% rate so far, walking 10% rate. The walking at a 10% rate, I think, is sustainable. I mean, he has dropped kind of his O swing numbers to a level where I go, okay, maybe he is showing a better eye at the plate, but like he's still got a 15% swing and strike rate. His zone contact is still below 80%. Like these are indicative of a guy who's going to strike out at a 30% clip, which is what he's kind of always done in the majors and the minors. So,
Yeah,
I think he is going to come back down to earth. And one of like the signs like that things aren't going as well as maybe the numbers say it is because I'm pretty sure he hit like 2 home runs like right away when he got called up. And he's been stuck at 2 home runs, and he's a power hitter. This is a guy who's supposed to be a guy who generates power, and he's not making like a ton of barrel contact inside of the zone. So I think there's going to be a massive fall off. I don't write my I last year I wrote a article for Fantasy Pros. It was a buy low, sell high article. He would be on my sell high list
trying to sell
every week for right now, just because I think like he is not going to maintain what he's been doing from this kind of contact perspective. So
yeah, I don't think that's unfair with Vientos to have concerns about the strikeouts because it is a 19% rate right now, and you're like, wow, he's really improved the strikeouts. The walk rate's up. This is great. And then you got that 15% swinging strike rate glaring at you. And this is why I love being able to put up a custom dashboard on Fangraphs because that's my first, the top group of stats there. And I have swinging strike rate right next to the K rate. So I knew right away that the 19% is a little fraudulent because it's really hard to maintain that good of a strikeout rate when you're having a 15% swinging strike rate. That's just way too high. Like you said, he's a 30% swing and miss kind of guy. So there is some concerns about Vientos. I like him. He's a good power guy. Can he mash his way through it? Meaning, even if he's hitting like 240, can he blast, 15 homers the rest of the way?
Sure. Oh, I mean, he could blast 20 plus
20?
homers
Yeah.
if the Mets allow him to do it. The problem in the past
True.
has been the Mets have not allowed him to do it. The Mets know what his weaknesses are, and that's why it was so really shocking to see the Mets send down a guy like Brett Beatty, but keep Mark Vientos, because in the past he would just send both these guys down and they'd go sign Daniel Vogelbach or whatever, right? Like that's been kind of their routine, and so it was weird to see them send one guy down but not the other. Like I don't know why Beatty isn't on this team, and they're just not letting him mash his way through it. But like, could he be like a Chris Carter type? Absolutely. Like, why not? But
Yeah.
it would really come down to, will the Mets allow him to do that? I think in a lost season they might. So like, I'm not
That's the
saying you should
thing.
be
I'm
dropping
hoping.
him. And if he needs the power, like he's a guy I would still roster. But
Yeah.
like, if you think you're going to get like even like a 250 or 260 batting average from Vientos, I think you're going to be mistaken.
That's what we really want to caution you on is this great batting average that Mark Vientos has put together, 321 right now. It is a mirage. 351 BABIP and the swing and miss we talked about earlier. So that's what you have to prepare for. Enjoy the high right now, sure. And if maybe you found some power elsewhere and you want to try to sell high, by all means, like Justin said, if he was still doing that article, he would be encouraging folks to do that. Albert Suarez has been an interesting little find, and he's been up a couple different times because there's been multiple waves of pitcher injuries for the Orioles to deal with, and Suarez has been that next man up for them. And this time around, things are going pretty well. Since May 26th, he has 3 starts. He started the day before, got 4 clean innings, just to boost the price up a little bit more. But 3 straight 5-inning starts since then, and he has a 176 ERA, 126 WHIP. Says, hey, maybe putting on a few too many base runners for an ERA that good, but he's getting out of the jams. 11% strikeout minus walk because he doesn't strike out too many guys. 13 strikeouts in 15 innings for Albert Suarez. Only 6 walks, not too bad. Well, actually, I'm looking at it now. It's 65 batters faced, so it's about a 9% walk rate. So, modest rates there. but you're going for the win probability, and you do have a win here. He's 1-0 in these 3 starts. You're hoping to maybe nab up some wins because he's on Baltimore. Do you like Albert Suarez while he has a role?
Yeah, and I don't see why he won't have a role. I mean, maybe the trade deadline they go out and they purchase a bunch of
I,
guys, but
I think they get somebody at the deadline.
I mean, they can
That's
always
still a
move
long
Cole
time
Irvin
away.
back. Yeah, they could always move Cole Irvin back into the
Yeah,
bullpen if they want. It doesn't necessarily need to be Suarez. You know when the last time Suarez gave up a home run was?
back when he was in Korea.
Pretty close. He's only given up 1 home run this year. It was April
That's
28th against
awesome.
the A's. So like the combination of just the way he pitches, with such great command, and the fact he pitches in that park just really protects him.
Yeah,
Now he's
that
not a big
park is
strikeout
awesome for
guy.
him now.
Yeah, not a big strikeout guy. He's not gonna go super deep into games, but like you can, as long as he goes 5, you're setting yourself up for a potential win because the Orioles look good and he's in that park. So there's nothing wrong with Albert Suarez. Not a league winner, but a perfect glue guy. Kind of like what we hope Robert Gasser is going to turn into, right?
Exactly. And Robert Gasser is quite a bit younger, so once he's healthy, he can be Albert Suarezian and on a quality team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like Suarez. I actually have him in a league, and I've been benefiting from him, so that's nice. Our last guy is pitching well right now, but I am scared. Okay, now he's on a heater. Matt Waldron for the San Diego Padres is blazing hot. He got trounced for 7 earned, 8 total against Arizona in Arizona on May 5th. Then he reeled off 3 straight quality, actually good starts. I can't say quality start when it's an actual stat. I just meant they were quality starts, but it was 5 1/3, 5 2/3, 5 innings. But it was Dodgers, Atlanta, and a trip to Cincy for Waldron, and the knuckler was hot for all 3. So then people picked him up again in a big wave, and 3 more gems, this time going 7, 6 1/3, and 6. So those are 3 quality starts, 2 of which were wins. 0.93 ERA, 13 base runners in 19 1/3 innings. That's good for an 0.67 whip. 16 Ks, 2 walks in those 19 innings. What are we doing with Matt Waldron? Are we trusting this, or is it a knuckler and it'll eventually kill you with a 7 earned run outing?
My heart tells me that he's a knuckler and this is going to come back down to earth tremendously. And I mean, it's definitely going to come back down to earth. You look at the last 3 starts, it was against Miami, the Angels, and Arizona. Not offenses that are scaring you at all. That being said, we want to pump the brakes a little bit on he's a knuckler. That means he's not going to be able to control or command things very well because he doesn't throw the knuckleball exclusively in the way that Tim Wakefield and
Charlie Huff, all those guys.
He's a guy who uses a knuckler as kind of a secondary pitch. He still has a fastball that he uses, and as much as I discount a little bit of what he's done based on the level of competition, you can only throw against who you can throw against. Remember the year where everybody's well, you got to sell on Kenta Maeda because look at his matchups last year. He was against crappy teams, and it's all it's not his fault. I
don't like taking too much credit from players on that because you still have to perform who's in front of you. They're still big leaguers. And hey, our fantasy leagues don't give you partial credit for it. You get the full credit. So unless the schedule is going to get immediately more difficult, it's not always valid to me to just cite unless you can give me a reason why that's, inflating the player. I don't need to know about the schedule. Everyone goes through ebbs and flows of a schedule.
For me, it's more of a matter of hey, don't just set and forget this guy.
Exactly, and that's where I'm at with Waldron.
Competition. I would start him against the Mets tomorrow, no problem. I would not start him against Philadelphia next week, that.
Nor would I. In Philly.
In Philly. So but I think he's got a really interesting arsenal that keeps hitters off balance, and so I think he can kind of keep doing this, but there will be moments in which, things aren't working and, he can't get, pitches into the zone, and that's a problem for him. But ultimately, I think he is a pretty interesting guy, probably around the top 60-ish in terms of starting pitching moving forward. And plays in a good park with a good offense behind him. So like, there's no reason to think like he can't win you some games and be a viable part of like, back end of a 12-team rotation or in towards the middle of a 15-team rotation.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense with Matt Waldron. I like what we've seen from him. And I think you make the best point there was don't just think he's Charlie Huff, Tom Candiotti,
Yeah.
Tim Wakefield, those guys that are knuckleball exclusive, even R.A. Dickey. But actually, he's a little bit more in that R.A. Dickey mold because R.A. Dickey had other pitches that he could go to too. And Matt Waldron can throw like 94. So
Yeah.
that kind of gives him an out there. So I like him. I'm excited by what he's been doing, and I'm always rooting for a knuckler to find success because that's just fun. So all right, there we go. That's the May review, and like I said, it's not great, Justin. The first period, I think we would call Scott a dub. That's pretty good. We'll call Hudson a dub, even though it was for a particular period. It was, intentional, and you got what you needed. We'll call Megill and DeJong dubs on the second period. Rayleigh, Ramos, Gonzalez, I would say, are dubs in the third. And then Hamilton, Vientos, Suarez, Waldron. Actually, the most recent one's the best one.
Yeah. Mhm.
And maybe they will fade. Maybe it's just because it is the newest. But I do like those four: Hamilton, Vientos, Suarez, Waldron a good bit. Even with Vientos with the average risk, you picked him up for power anyway. So
Yeah. You should still get
my
that power.
most teams that picked him up can probably eat a bad batting average. They just haven't had to yet. So,
Yeah.
all right, Justin, it was great speaking with you. What do you got coming up on Sunday? Are you and Jason gonna be able to get together?
I don't believe we're getting
it's
together
Father's
because
Day.
it's Father's Day this weekend.
Yeah.
And then I will have a guest next weekend
Splendid.
because he's going to be out of town.
Did I already? Oh no, we didn't do Monday's show. Sorry, y'all. I'm so old now, dude. I tried a late night, like an old school late night, up till like 4. It destroyed me for Monday, and kind of started to fuck with with Tuesday. So yeah, I am not cut out for that anymore. Awesome. I'm so old. But anyway, I'm going to the Tigers game this weekend.
Oh, nice.
I'm excited. It's gonna be great. My brother and his girl and their kids are coming, so it's gonna be awesome. Saturday is Verlander's Scoople, and we're going on Sunday.
Oh.
Oh, and the Royals win just to twist the knife further.
Yeah, I'm watching right now.
At least you don't have Clay Holmes, because I've been there. We've all been there in that fantasy scenario, right? Where your team, where you get a win gets blown, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just take the save then because I have the closer of the other team, and then he screws it, and you literally get nothing. That has definitely happened.
This
and
is
it's a
Miguel
nightmare.
Garcia, right? I'll take that.
Yeah. So if you have Marsh and Clay Holmes, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. You really got
Hey, you get to
marked there.
see Spencer Getty and Kenta Maeda.
All right, I gotta go. I hate your guts so much. I couldn't believe it. Verlander Scooble on Saturday. We just can't make Saturday work, so it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I'll still be watching it. Can't wait. But I will talk to you on tomorrow morning. We will be back live with 2 starts.
Take it easy.
Peace.